everybody. I'm Jenna Baggs. I'm the office manager of Spark offices here in Manchester, New Hampshire. We offer an innovative, collaborative workspace designed to sort of bring people together, people, ideas, workflow in this really cool, industrial, unique mill building here in Manchester. We also happen to be the proud sponsors of Snacks with an Expert series. So today's expert is Chuck Sink, owner of Chuck Sink Link, the link to your customers. Chuck is a brand strategist, a content creator, and a college lecturer with a proven skill combo of creativity, excellent written communications, and a successful brand marketing experience. He offers organizations exceptional value for helping increase their sales and brand equity in this very competitive market. Chuck has over 30 years of sales, marketing, and management experience, which means he started when he was 3. In this series of Snacks with an Expert, Chuck Sink talks about how to position your brand for success, the magic formula to get there, and how to make your brand sell for you. Now, without further ado, your Snacks with an Expert, Chuck Sink.
Well, thank you, Jenna. That was a very nice introduction. Much appreciated. And it's a pleasure to be here at Spark offices where I have a seat. I've proudly been working with the Spark folks for over a year now. And it's a great place to work. It's a great place to network and have opportunities like this, you know, so yeah. And just a little bit about me. I've been in the sales and marketing profession now for about 30-ish years. I spent a lot of my career in sales. You know, I hit the streets back in the 1980s, I must admit. And I had a briefcase and I had samples and business cards, and I went door to door and sold commercial printing services to many different kinds of businesses. And I got involved in all kinds of marketing campaigns as a print resource, but was often in on the discussions, a lot of the creative discussions going on. And I really fell in love with the idea of advertising and marketing as a profession rather than the manufacturing side that I was in. And so I decided to join up with an advertising agency back in around 2000, way back then. It was a business-to-business agency here in New Hampshire, did a lot of industrial marketing. So I really got into the B2B world and felt very comfortable there. Fast forward, about a year later, the company had some problems. I ended up going with an agency more consumer focused. They did a lot of financial services, banking, retail, and consumer products. Bigelow Tea was one of my marquee accounts, along with some other big names, which I won't get into now. But I got a lot of branding experience through this agency, and I'm going to bring some of that to you today, along with what I've kind of learned since the early 2000s and up through today. I've had my own marketing agency now since 2011, and we've been growing slowly but steadily and adding all kinds of small business and medium enterprise brands in our portfolio, and it's just a great profession. I've enjoyed doing this, and I love the creativity. I primarily bring a writing skill to the table and work with a number of other creatives. So enough about me. Let's get into why I feel that building brand equity and thinking about the equity in your brand, the worth. What is your brand really worth? How do you quantify that? Not so easily, but we're going to get into why it's important and how it can help drive sales and make selling easier. So I want to unveil this secret formula to you. It's the brand equity formula. And as you can see, it's very mathematical. So the secret is that BE, okay, that's brand equity. we'll give that away, equals the sum of SA plus PQ plus SD. So if you can just increase that SA, that PQ, and that SD, your brand equity is just going to be on fire. Or at least it's going to be increasing in value. But I don't want to be so coy here. So the not so secret brand equity formula, as you can see, it's spelled out for you right here. And brand equity really is, if you try to break it down a little bit, it's made up of these three components. And the SA, of course, is strategic awareness. The PQ is perceived quality. Perceived is a key word there. And then SD is, of course, singular distinction. So think of those words and what they mean. And you can understand why it's so important to increase strategic awareness, not just awareness, but strategic awareness. I'm going to break these down a little further in the next slide, or not so much in the next slide, but this slide, I'm sorry. Being known for the reasons you want to be known. That's being strategic about your brand awareness. Okay, so you can't just plaster your logo and your name out there everywhere you can and think that people will know you for the right reasons. They may know the name, they may recognize the symbol, but what does it stand for? What does it mean to them unless you make it mean something? And perception of quality is just as important as actual quality. And I like to use the example from back in the 1990s. There was a campaign, a brand positioning for a car company that was based on a certain aspect. And that aspect was safety. There was a perception of safety in this automobile brand. It was pervasive. If people asked you to name a safe car back in the 90s, that car would be a Volvo, right? So Jenna remembers. So that was a perception of quality only. They marketed the hell out of safety, but they were not the safest car on the road. Ford beat them in just about every independent crash test on just about every model, category of model. But, you know, not by a lot, but they were not the safest car, but everybody thought they were. And so they had that perception. They were successful in, and they're a quality vehicle, of course. So there's no, you know, manipulation here. They just said, hey, we're a good, safe car. We engineer for safety. And it was believable, and people, soccer moms, remember that term? They loaded their kids up in Volvos all over the place, as I recall. And then singular distinction, that's really the differentiation with relevance, and it's something that only your brand can really own in the marketplace. And so that's kind of the breakdown of why these three components add up to equal the value of your brand equity. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And so, you know, this is a very high level talk so far, and you might be wondering, you know, well, how do I measure that? How do I know I've got brand equity or it's increasing in value? I hate to disappoint you, but it's really qualitative. You know, there are ways of measuring brand equity after you've done the strategic work and implemented the campaigns in the market. You begin to measure the value of your brand in increased sales, awareness surveys, and things like that. So you can begin to quantify it. That's why I say, if you want the quantitative metrics behind brand equity, put the strategy into a campaign, implement that campaign, and start to measure the results. Perhaps have customer surveys that can show a level of awareness that wasn't there previously. There's a lot of work in all of that, but in many cases, it's necessary to kind of know where you're going and know where you're successful and not so successful, and where you have to do some fine tuning and maybe go back to the strategy a little bit. So if anyone wants to raise their hand through this, just do so. Chime in, and small group here, so we can answer questions on the fly if need be, but there should be plenty of time for that.
I just put this
All
in
right,
the chat.
so there's this talk about brand equity, and it's a qualitative kind of thing. People feel a brand, they think about it. It occupies space in their mind and heart, and you hope that is a strategic awareness of you, all right, rather than just what the market default message about your brand is, or what maybe you make a lot of mistakes and you don't do a lot of communicating, and your brand equity goes down, and your brand is known for negative reasons.
Abby does have a quick question, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yes, thank you. If you don't mind.
Abby?
Yes. Oh, am I on mute still? No. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to go back to your point about, measuring brand equity. And it makes perfect sense to me that it is qualitative in nature. I wanted just to ask you how I should think about measuring the equity through campaigns, though, because, and correct me if you think differently, but the equity is always the same, but how you embed it in a campaign, or how it is represented in it, like how it is, what's the best way to describe it? Like what it's put into, a campaign, and then everything is added around it to highlight it. How do you extract for those peripheral elements to get to the true heart of whether or not the brand equity is driving sales or driving positive customer feedback?
That's a great question. I think a survey is so important to get to the heart of something like that, about how a campaign makes someone feel, and is it aligned with the strategic brand identity that the company has put into the brand. So is it known, are these peripheral thoughts and ideas that come out of a campaign aligned with that brand positioning, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So I don't have a great answer for you right now, other than to say it takes a lot of surveying, questionnaires, post-campaign surveys that actually say, ask maybe some open-ended or questions, and to see if that is aligning with the brand value. There was, I'm going to kind of back up a little bit. There was a study back in around 2005 or so, I'm going to say, that, and I can't cite it exactly, but it's from memory for what that's worth. But they tried to measure what the brand value of Coca-Cola was. If you strip away all of the manufacturing plants, the trucks, distribution networks, really everything to do with manufacturing and distributing Coca-Cola. If all that went away, but the brand of Coca-Cola was still there, like if something made all the manufacturing like blow up, for how much would Coca-Cola be worth with no way to make it or distribute it? And the answer was in the billions of dollars. I think it was something like $16 billion, because of all of the hundreds of years of equity built up in the name Coca-Cola, and what people felt and thought about it through all those campaigns. So some group tried to put of value on the brand alone without any physical assets. And they came up with billions. So if I can find out who did that study, I could do some looking around and research. I'll try to send it to you because maybe there's some answers there. Hopefully that helps. I know I didn't get too specific, but anyway, does that help, Abby? Do you want me to continue?
No, I was just saying in the chat, I didn't want to interrupt you. That does help. That does help immensely. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. All right, so, I wanted to point out that branding is really all about growth. It's if you're putting this branding effort in, if your sales aren't growing, then is it effective? So sales growth is a great bottom line measurement to me. I just love the sales metric because it's so bloody simple, right? So we want to, this is all about growing sales, really. As so much of our business is. I'm getting a new water. Wonderful. So we want to position our brand for sales growth, right? So let's get strategic about that. And let's talk about brand positioning. Positioning is a concept that comes out of the 1960s, and it's that was the golden age of television advertising, and brands were just the corporate branding model through television advertising was really kind of fun to watch and follow, very entertaining. A lot of creativity came out of that era. And a couple of advertising executives named Jack Trout, and I forget the other guy, but anyway, they wrote a book called Positioning. And so some of what I'm going to talk about is based on those principles that they discovered with regard to positioning a brand in the mind and heart of the target audience. So brand positioning is really could be looked at as the space which a brand occupies in the mind around a certain attribute, a specific attribute of a product or service. And, it's really all about distinguishing yourself from your competitors. And so how do you position your brand in the mind and heart of your audience that's different from your competition? So they'll think of you in a kind of a different space in their mind regarding your type of product, your service or your product. There's going to be a number of competitors with different positions occupying their mind, and they're going to be based on some attribute. All right, so when you're positioning your brand, you want to ask these two questions, really. Who are we and what do we stand for? And that's from a company standpoint. It's from a cultural, corporate level. Every corporation really is a brand, whether it's Nike or General Electric. It doesn't matter what they make. So as a corporation, as a company, you want to brand your organization. And then you can have ancillary brands, product brands, brand names, essentially, divisions or subsidiary brands. So you ask, what are we, or who are we, and what do we stand for, and why is that valuable? All right. So we may stand for something, but does it mean something for our target audience, our customers? So what we want to do is position our brand for selling. Again, getting back to sales. And maybe some of you have heard, this is a more modern idea of branding and sales that I've been hearing a lot about lately. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. Okay, so you really have to be familiar with someone. You got to kind of like them. You have to, you don't really buy from people you dislike unless you have to, but you'll tend to avoid that. And you obviously need to trust the person you're buying from, the company you're buying from, trust the product is going to work. So you need to know, like, and trust your vendor, your salesperson, if you're going to buy from them. All right. So let's go back to our formula and tie in the know, like, and trust factors of increasing sales. Remember, going back to that brand equity equals SA, strategic awareness, plus PQ, perception of quality, plus SD, singular distinction. So to know the company, to know the product and service is all about strategic awareness, being known for the reasons you want to be known, not just being known for whatever or whatever somebody else might say about you, but your own strategic brand goals. All right. And then like is about the perception of quality. You have to like what you're buying. You have to like the brand. And that includes people. If you're a service organization, especially, or you sell products, there's a person there, a salesperson, a customer service rep you like dealing with, and they provide a quality experience. And of course, the product has to be of high quality, and the service delivery and all that. So that's where the like comes in. And then you have to trust in that if you're buying this product from this company, it's going to be the best fit for your specific needs. So you can trust that it is going to meet your needs. And of course, you have to trust the person selling to you, trust the organization, appreciate the type of company they are and what they do in the market, the community, and so forth. So there's that trust factor. So, branding really, if you're strategic about it and diligent in sticking to your brand, then your campaigns are going to be more successful. And now I want to talk about how to position your brand, how to be really strategic about creating a brand that people know, like, and trust, one that has a strategic awareness in the market, one that is of high quality, perceived high quality, and one that's really distinctive and singular and relevant. So let's look at that. How to write a brand positioning statement. Now I want to say something. Oh, sorry, looking for the time. Something real quick about mission statements here. Most companies have mission statements, and most company executives can't recite their mission statement. And they're mostly dealing with, the company is a great corporate citizen, and we care about our customers, and we develop the best products in our market, and we care about the community, and we give back. So it's like a lot of lofty rhetoric in many cases, but a positioning statement speaks directly to the customer, and it makes a promise. So a positioning statement is a brand promise. That's a synonym for it, if you will. So let's look at how to position your brand. But first, what makes a positioning statement a good one? What makes it a strong, effective positioning statement that's going to guide all of your campaigns going forward consistently? So a positioning statement is a really great foundation for guiding all of your marketing communications in a consistent way. And we all, as marketers, know how important consistency of message is and repetition. So what makes a strong positioning statement? It's simple, it's memorable. You want to be comfortable with it. And a positioning statement, while it may be something you want to reveal publicly, it's really internal. It's more internal. So you need to be comfortable with it and know it and be able to memorize it. It should just come right out of your your mouth when asked about it or thinking about it. It needs to be understood. You need to distinguish yourself from the competition in a way that people understand and it's relevant to them. Credibility is so important. It has to, your products and services have to deliver as your brand promises they will, as your brand positioning statement says they should. You want to be able to own this positioning. So you don't want competition to easily say, well, we do the exact same thing. You wouldn't want your competition saying that. You might want them thinking, well, we're a little different. We don't really see it. So you want to own it, and you need to really believe it, or else you won't necessarily implement that strategic awareness into all of your communications. So it also needs to support growth. Yes.
Before you move on, advertisement hand raised.
Oh, yes, Abby. Go ahead, Abby. Question.
Yes, I think you, so I think you may already have answered my question, but I was just still curious how you feel the positioning statement links to a communication strategy. Is it a precursor to it, something entirely separate? And when I say communication strategy, I'm thinking of we're in the process of redoing our website. And so I want to make sure, the communication flows through all the pages and things.
Mm-hmm.
Does that question make sense?
It does. And I would say it's a precursor. It's a foundation. And it should, when you're developing, you're designing your website, you're looking at taglines or, what's the first big message we want to get across? It really should be aligned with that positioning statement and sort of give that promise to the public, to the viewer, the visitor. So I hope that helps. And so I'm going to talk a little more about that in just a second. So perfect question. All right, so moving on, hopefully that answers that. So the last thing, number 6, your positioning statement should support growth. So in other words, you're being different, you're being distinct and singular here. And are there enough people in the market that will identify with that specific positioning that you're talking about? That specific value proposition. Because everyone's value proposition should be different. And a positioning statement is kind of like an internal value proposition that, again, will drive forward your communication strategy, including website design. So let's look at a framework of how to write a good positioning statement. And I love this because it's simple and it's brief. And it's like it's powerful. I can't think of the right word. It's acute or whatever. It's it makes it easy for you to just come up with the right positioning statement for your company. So there's basically 4 components of writing a positioning statement, and they're all here, but they're not numbered. But the first component is your target audience. You have to define them. You have to define that target audience somewhat narrowly. Your target audience shouldn't be anyone with money who needs this type of service. It needs to be a specific group that will identify with your specific positioning, that's differentiating you, with a value proposition. So your company, you're going to say, okay, 2, our target audience. That could be engineers, or it could be CEO. It could be the C-suite in an industrial firm. It could be any type of target audience, but it depends on what your business is, right? And it's up to you to define it. And so the next component is the frame of reference. That is the general business category that you're in. So if your company is a construction company, if your company is a CPA, accounting firm, is it a marketing agency? Is it an aluminum manufacturer? So my company is that type of company, kind of a generic category of business. So that's the frame of reference that everyone can understand. And then the next component is to point out the key benefit, that point of difference, which has to do with a key benefit. So the word "that" is handy here. My company is the automobile manufacturer that does what? What's the key benefit? What's the point of difference? And then you have to back it up with the relevant support, the RTB, reason to believe. That's an old marketing term. And that's where the "because" comes in. So this is one of the simplest, choicest ways to me to write a one-sentence positioning statement. And that's what's so cool about it. One sentence does the trick, not a paragraph or two. Now, a positioning statement could be more than one sentence, but you don't really want to make it more than, say, two. It's got to be brief and to the point, really concise, really nails what you do in just one statement. All right, so let's look at, how this framework comes together into some actual positioning statements. And I hope I can share this, by the way, if it isn't already shared with everyone. This is from a brand most of us are familiar with, I think, Listerine, Listerine mouthwash. And this is a positioning statement that they worked on. I'm not sure what the time frame is, but I researched this about 7, 8 years ago, and it was pretty current then. So I was looking for actual brands who had used this formula. Listerine was one of them. And you can see how similar or almost identical this structure is. So they start with their target audience, somewhat narrowly defined. And this is kind of a long way to describe a target audience, but healthy, proactive preventers, germ preventers, in an age group here who want to do as much for the health of their mouth as they can. So that's not everybody. It's people who want good, hygiene for their mouth and are willing to, use a special product for that. So that's who we're targeting. The second component is the frame of reference or the generic business category. Listerine is the germ-killing mouthwash brand. That, remember that word, that sets up the rationale or the benefit, the key benefit. So it's the germ-killing mouthwash brand that gives you the confidence of a cleaner, healthier mouth. Because, that word because, Listerine is trusted to kill the germs that cause gingivitis, and it's respected by dental professionals and clinically proven. Okay, so that's that's a reason to believe. Those are several good reasons to believe that it works. Okay, so we'll move on to some other actual positioning statements. And this first one here, to safety conscious automobile consumers, this is Volvo's actual positioning statement from the 1990s. They've gone past this probably for the last 8, 9 years. But this was their positioning back in the 90s, probably up to 2003, 4, 5, in that range. They started to move more into performance and other things, styling. But getting back to that singular distinction, Volvo did a really good job with safety. So they say to safety conscious car buyers, see, narrowly defined target audience. Volvo is the automobile manufacturer that keeps you and your family safe, because all of our technology effort and planning are focused on protecting drivers and their passengers. Concise, specific, singular. It really worked well, and that foundation drove all of their advertising. Everything had to do with some aspect of safety. Sure, they may have had some other features, but they always had that safety message in their ads. And, you know, so here's my positioning statement. To walk the talk, I guess you could say. My target audience is business owners, directors of marketing, and any organization leader that wants better communication for their company. Chuck Sink Link, that's the communication firm. That's kind of the generic category, or that creates ideal messages for your target audience. That's the key benefit, because we reveal the authentic value of your brand and communicate it with clarity and relevance. That's the reason to believe. We reveal authenticity of brand value, you know, and we really dig deep to find that. We listen very carefully to our clients, and then we go forth to communicate it clearly and with relevance to their audience. So I try to, you know, stick with that foundational positioning for all of my messaging. And I think I do an okay job. So just to show you more of this, and to make you really familiar with this structure. It's so simple and it's so direct and concise. Here's one that, let's say you're a construction firm, and this is just one that I made up to kind of demonstrate how well this structure works. And who knows, maybe I'll have a prospect and I could use this. It'll be in the bag, right? And, you know, as long as I interview them and everything aligns with this, why not? But anyway, you have to define your target audience to property owners and architects. That's who construction companies speak to, not just, you know, any business owner. It's got to be a property owner, right? So XYZ company is the construction management firm that adds the most value to your real estate. So adding value to real estate, that's something there, because our relationships and financial strength prioritize operations to achieve the highest quality long-term building performance for our clients. So they make that promise, and it's based on a reason to believe, which is relationships and financial strength. Those are so critically important in the construction business. Relationships with subcontractors, with municipal officers and movers and shakers. A builder really needs all that, and they need a lot of money in the bank to make stuff happen. And lastly, this is an actual client example, one that I wrote a number of years ago for an aluminum manufacturer, and we'll take a look at their website if we have time. But they focus on OEM, original equipment manufacturing executives. So these are big manufacturers that manufacture and market products. Vitex manufactures components for those products. So they're into OEM executives, engineers, specifiers, and purchasing managers. Vitex is the aluminum manufacturing firm. Okay, that's again the business category. That, what's the key benefit? It helps its customers deliver products faster to their markets. What's the reason to believe? You know, the relevant differentiation, their ability to scale and flex operations according to customer demands for precision extrusions, machine components, and assemblies. So this company invested hugely in extrusion and machining equipment so that they could be the fastest. They could just kind of on the fly, you know, pivot and good word, pivot and make quick decisions to move operations toward meeting an urgent need. And they do. This company has skyrocketed in growth since we wrote this for them and since we designed their website. They have a super great selling CEO as well, so he gets a lot of credit. But that's another example. So positioning statements up the wazoo for you. Now, the death by PowerPoint is officially over. And I would like to go online, just kind of toggle out of here if that works, and show some examples. Yeah, we were just talking about Vitex, and this is their website. You know, Vitex, they're a division of Momentum now. And you can see that this website talks about end product use, aluminum extrusion manufacturer, custom manufactured for today's innovative products. If you go through this website, you'll see that they've got the best capabilities just about in all of North America for aluminum extrusions and finished aluminum machining. So really, the depth of this website speaks to their brand promise very much. There's a ton of good information in here, and a lot of it's very technical for the engineer. You can learn all about, you know, different capabilities that set this company apart, such as large machining, long parts, and so forth. It's a really great website if you're into this stuff. And if you're into industrial manufacturing, I'm really proud of this. And it's just done a great service to the company. And they just put in like another $10 million extrusion press and expanded into a new building in Franklin. So they're on fire. I hope this, you know, work had something to do with it. I'm sure it did. I want to show you a rebrand that I'm involved with right now. This is the current company website called Shrinkfast. And Shrinkfast makes heat tools. They make gas-fired heat tools that are used mostly for shrink wrapping, like wrapping boats, you know, heat shrink film. And, you know, you can kind of see in the video how he's doing a small piece, but they do a lot of boat wrapping. So this is their current brand identity, Shrinkfast. They have a little SF here. And so you can see the kind of look and feel of their current website. These are their 3 products currently. And you can see what they look like, the colors, the logo treatment, and so forth. And you can see this is what they do mostly. But they're rebranding because their heat tools do a whole lot more than shrink film. They can be used for burning weeds, you know, weed removal, all kinds of melting applications, roof welding, you know, welding plastics and seams and things. So we want to expand this brand into new markets while remaining leaders in the shrink wrapping industry. So here's what you can kind of see the products, what the products look like, what the current online brand is looking like. It's mostly technical. We're going to take this toward the consumer, the user, in our rebranding. And we're going to make it a lot more cool and expand the idea of direct heat, not shrink wrapping, but direct high heat and powerful direct high heat, manually controlled, safely controlled. So here's what, working with another agency, I have written the branding documents and the strategic positioning statement, but here's what we're coming up with for a new logo. So we've renamed the company SF Tools because that expands, it doesn't pigeonhole them into shrink wrapping anymore, but SF is kind of a legacy, SF Tools. You can see we have a cool little kind of fire-breathing dragon icon here to go with the logo. We have patterns, we have font styles, we have colors, and now we have a little some ideas of how we can do swag for our branding, for our trade shows, looking at some potential advertising executions. But see how this has evolved into something more enticing, more consumer, more user-driven than the really technical stuff of their old website. You know, it kind of shows it's utilizing familiar colors and you know, a familiar look, so that we're not a shock to the current customer, but we're also very cool. And we're going to go forth and really communicate this brand. We're writing letters, we're sending swag packages, we're doing everything we can to work with the distributors, the partners, so that they know the messaging, and they're going to have branding kits to help, you know, at the consumer level, because these are sold primarily through distributors. But what a difference, eh? That's what some nice new branding can do for your look and feel. Some new advertising ideas, labeling, the whole 9 yards. And I love this business card. Right now, he's got a white card with his name on it, and the old shrink fast in black and white is pretty much it. But this takes it to a whole new level. And I can't let you guys see this because it's really not, it's launched and it isn't. It's a done deal, and we're in the midst of communicating our new brand to the distributor network. And there was one more thing I wanted to show you about Shrink Fast. The positioning statement. Remember those? We were just talking about positioning statements. So this is just part of a strategic document I wrote last year, but they went with this positioning statement, and it's now driving everything forward. And this is to safety-minded service professionals. It's not talking to shrink wrappers anymore or marina professionals. It's safety-minded service professionals. We might want to narrow that down for each niche industry, which we will, as we're doing our ads and marketing for each niche. But SF Tools is the heat tool manufacturer that puts the power of direct heat safely in your hands, enabling faster, easier shrink wrapping and other controlled heat applications. This could be the because. We do this by focusing all of our design, engineering, and manufacturing expertise on producing the safest, easiest to operate heat tools in the world. And so that's their promise. And really everything that we're talking about goes back to that foundational positioning. So that's it, folks. Appreciate your spending a few minutes, almost 60. And any questions, let me know, and I'm happy to send this show to anyone who would like it. And of course, it's online. So thanks again.